What is the scariest experience you've had in your life that you believe can only be attributed to the paranormal? When I was like 3 or 4, my grandmother passed away, and soon after all of my extended family flew in town to have the funeral. A week after the funeral, some relatives were still in town, including my uncle and his family. My grandmother wanted us to sell the house after she passed. So my family did exactly that. It was hectic cause we were trying to pack everything up, meanwhile everyone still had to go to work and school. On one of the days that we had to pack up the house, my parents both had work, my older cousins had school, and my uncles and aunts had jobs, other stuff. However, my uncle, grandma's oldest son, was available to watch me for a couple hours, so he did. According to him, I asked him to go to the bathroom while he was watching TV. The closest bathroom was in my grandparents' old room, so I went there. When I came back, I asked my uncle who the nice lady was on the bed. He kinda played along with it because he might have thought it was an imaginary friend or something. He asked me questions about her to entertain me. I described her as dark-haired, kinda white, and wearing a blue nightgown. When I said that, my uncle freaked out because my grandmother always wore a light blue nightgown to sleep. After that, my uncle and I left the house and waited outside for my parents to come back home. When I was about 8 and staying with a friend, I woke up from a dream that my dog died crying and asked to go home. This had never happened before and never happened again. The parents got me to go back to bed. I did, and in the morning when I got home, my family were sitting silently in the living room. I found out that my dog was run over late the night before at the same time. Or around about. I had the nightmare. I was so shocked that I couldn't even cry. I don't know what to think about it, but here it goes. Around 8 years ago, I was in vacations with my parents and my cousin. My sister couldn't come as she had just started her first job, so she stayed home by herself. When we were children, both my sister and I used to be really close, mainly because we shared room for my first 7 nights of a year. We used to have our code with taps for asking things like, "Are you already asleep? Are they, our parents, asleep?" Stuff like that. She is also always doing something or looking for something to do, always being the first up. So when she was up and wanted me to wake up, she would place her face as close to mine as possible and stare at me. I don't know for how long she would stay like this, but I can clearly remember multiple times waking to her doing this. I, of course, would shout or at least panic until realizing it was her. I guess it was fun for her, and I have to admit, I also did it a couple of times. So now we are in our trip. It has been at least 10/12ths of a year since the last time my sister pulled this prank on me. My sister and I are not as close as we used to be. We have certainly grown a little apart, but we still love each other. It was the last night in our trip before heading back to our city, and we had just found this nice hotel close to the pyramids in Palenque, which meant no cell phone service. We were sharing a room, my mom and dad in the first bed and my cousin and I in the other one. At some point around 4 a.m. I woke up to the same old sensation that someone is staring at me, so I opened my eyes and I could clearly see a face. My immediate reaction was to shout, waking my mother up. I have to say that this sensation by itself is really scary, but years of experience with my sister waking me up like this took the threat away. So despite of my shouting, I wasn't scared. It was just too familiar. My mom turned on the light and asked me what happened. I told her that I was pretty sure my sister had just woken me up. I know it didn't make any sense, but I felt it was her, though I cannot say I saw her face. I just saw a face and then it disappeared immediately. My mom is really superstitious, so she couldn't sleep after that because she felt something was odd. And I couldn't sleep thinking of my sister. Later that day, in the morning, we noticed we all had lots of missed calls. My sister was involved in a really bad car accident. Luckily, she only had minor injuries. To this day, I don't know what to make out of this experience. My brain tells me it was just a coincidence. On the other hand, it's the only way I would have thought of my sister sleeping. It was just so real. So between both of us. As an extra, on our previous visit to Palenque, my parents, my sister and I, at the ruins we could hear some drums. My parents said that it was raining and we were playing with the pawns, and at some point the drums started playing. Our curiosity made us follow the sound, getting us deeper and deeper in the jungle. I can't remember why we stopped, but when we finally made it to the exit and asked the security guy about the music, he said, "So you heard the drums as well?" Quote. He then proceeded to tell us that a lot of people had heard them at different